1st Battalion of the Royal Canadian Regiment, Charles Company, is a tough group, brave and courageous.
Not knowing the anxiety of the unknown, you don't know what's going to happen the next minute, and you hear your buddies, your friends are getting shot and killed, injured, and every day is a challenge like that. You don't know what's going to happen next.
My parents split up. I think I was 2 or 3 when they split up, so I only really known my parents to kind of be separated or divorced. But I had a great childhood. My dad was there every weekend to pick us up. My parents, when it came to raising us, were both on the same page. My mom said something, my dad said, you know, that's the way it is. My dad said something, my mom said, that's the way it is. And always had 3 squares, roof over my head, clothing on my back, so I had a great childhood.
Luke growing up was very funny. If I could put those that know Married with Children, he'd be the Al Bundy, the Ace Ventura. He always had a good line for something. He was always making people laugh.
He was fun. He was full of life. He was jovial. He was a pain in the ass. He was joking all the time, always trying to get a laugh out of somebody.
We messed around a lot, so kind of bullied me a little bit here and there. So yeah. A lot of brotherly fun.
The day I got recruited, so it was great. I was in grade 9, and the recruiting officers would come set up a display at the schools, and I went down, checked it out. You see this guy in his uniform, you know, well respected, just a very genuine human being, and his sale to you is, you know, like, we do peacekeeping, right? So, you know, we go overseas and we make sure the world stays safe, our country stays safe, and there's no greater honor than serving your country, and he was right. You know, join when you're 18, you can retire when you're 38 and do something else. And then I'm joining the Army. Grade 9, I knew I was joining the Army. I didn't really care for school. Not that it was difficult, I just didn't try. So I got my 60s, I got my 70s, I didn't care. That's all I wanted to do was just get that, because my mom said you have to graduate before you can go to the Army. So all I wanted to do was get that grade 12 diploma so I could go off to the military. I did 12 years, graduated so I could join the military, and off I went. So when I left for basic training, it was just after Christmas. So I joined January 5th, 1999. And so what they do is they fly you out of here, they fly you into Quebec. And I never left Sault Ste. Marie. So I had no idea what the world was like. They put you on a bus and they bus you to the Saint Jean. It's called the Mega. And that's where our basic training was, in this big, huge building. And I sat beside a guy from Northern Newfoundland. And if anything about Northern Newfoundland, I still to this day don't understand what they're saying. So I'm beside this guy, he's in a jean jacket, looked like he's fresh out of prison. And he's trying to talk to me, I have no idea what he's saying, I'm terrified. I'm 18 years old, and you're on this bus with grown men, right? Not everybody who goes to basic training is 18 years old. You got 30, 35-year-olds, in their 20s, who, you know, had a hard life. I was absolutely terrified going in there with all these grown men, but it ends up, they become your best friends. And they become brothers.
I met Luke in basic training. We went through basic training in Saint Jean, Quebec. Upon graduation, him and I became friends before graduation obviously ended, but that's where him and I really bonded, especially with the conversation that I had with his father in front of my father when his dad said, will you look after my son no matter what? And I said, yes sir, I will. I shook his dad's hand, Luke's hand, and my father's hand. So it was a pact made by, you know, father-son to father and son. I've taken it to heart ever since, 25 years ago.
So after I completed basic training, they send you to a battalion. And so I went to 1 RCR in Petawawa. And you're always training, you know, in case you ever had to go. At that point, it was to peacekeep. So it came down, warrant officer came downstairs, he said, Cyr, grab your stuff, you're clearing out tomorrow, you gotta go to 3 RCR. Get over 3 RCR, you're going to Bosnia. And I left in April 2001. Bosnia was a lot different. When we landed, they bus you for about 2 hours. You weren't getting any of your first line ammunition until you got to where you were going. And there you get all your equipment that you need, and then you're on a rotation. There was humanitarian aid that was involved, but it was more along the lines of peacekeeping. There was a couple of small incidents, shots fired outside the camp, there's grenade attack, but nothing crazy, right? Like it was just protests and stuff like that, but nothing we weren't ready for. Now that I know, after being to Afghanistan, the difference, like I was still scared going to Bosnia, right? Like you don't know what's going to happen, but you become a kind of get comfortable while you're over there, and then a lot of stuff you weren't worried, you weren't afraid. Like you never had to really worry that something bad was going to happen. It could, but for the most part, like you didn't think it was going to. Where we take for granted, where you're gonna turn the tap on cold, and you're gonna wait for your water to get cold. You're not fishing it out of a well somewhere. The luxury of wandering around, not worrying about what could happen to you, you start to notice those things more than you did before you left. You're like, the safety and security that Canada provides is such a luxury that's taken advantage of in a way. Sure, I'm sure people don't take advantage of it, but they don't realize what the rest of the world has going on. And it's an eye-opener for sure. But I didn't find a lot of things really changed. The only thing was, when I got back in September, we were getting ready to go on leave, and the towers came down.
It's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
It is lunchtime in London, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and 8 a.m. here in New York, live from the CNN Financial News headquarters.
It is beautiful outside, perfect September day with lots of sunshine. Oh, would you look at Washington, huh? I'm going outside today.
Other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet.
I remember that morning when the towers came down, someone got a call from their wife, said a plane flew into the World Trade Center. So everybody rushed to a TV, and back there was this 2-back TV down in transport. Everybody huddled around it, just wanting to see what's going on. Some pilot flew into a thing. Well, that's just when the next plane flew into the towers. And it hit you, and it's like, what's going on? And then we're under attack.
Holy fuck!
They're blowing planes out of the sky. It was from that moment on, I knew everything had changed. As I signed up for the military to be a peacekeeper, I knew it all changed. That's it, we're going to war. We have to go to war. And I don't know if there was a single person in North America that didn't want to get behind going and getting some revenge. The things that go through my mind is, I'm glad I'm going, because why else would I join the military, join the infantry to be a war fighter and never go to war? Right? But also realizing I got to make a couple phone calls here. Like I got to tell some people who care about me, oh, by the way, I'm going to Afghanistan. But being 23 at the time, I was ready to take on the world. I didn't care. What do I care? It is what it is, right? My country's calling, it's time to go, and I'm going to go.
He went off to war, and it was, I worried every day about his safety and prayed for his safe return. And it was very, very hard to see him go.
Mostly Canadians have been in more peacekeeping roles, and so this was really an active conflict that they're getting in. So I was just wondering, what that's going to bring. A lot of boys don't get to come home. So
the first couple times he went was more peacekeeping, but this was real, so it was a little more nerve-wracking. Nervous for him. Every day coming home, watching the news, right? Checking in on him to see if, what was going on over there and stuff.
I was very nervous for him to go over there. Like, it just I guess I was scared because, you hear of battles and you hear of people getting killed over there, and that was my biggest fear, was to lose my son.
Going to Kabul was completely different than Bosnia. They land on the ground, they give you your ammo right on the spot, and a lot of us had one in the chamber and a weapon on safe in the back of that vehicle heading towards our base in Kabul. Yeah, peacekeeping, you're there with a different mission, right? In Afghanistan, our mission was to provide security, which required force. When you went for peacekeeping, there was no real objective to use force at any time. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of kind of just, it was a kind of stable country, and we were over there just making sure nothing got stirred up again. Whereas when we went to Afghanistan, you're fighting ghosts. I was sitting in a Legion one time with a World War II vet, and I said, I can't believe what you guys went through. And he said, same when it comes to you guys, we were fighting a different color uniform. You guys are fighting ghosts. And it kind of made sense to me, right? But when you go into Afghanistan compared to Bosnia, you're making sure your will's filled out. You're making sure the last thing you say to somebody in your family or how you interact with someone in your family could be the last time you do that. So, you know, you weren't leaving, I'm not talking to you again. Those type of things. A good friend of mine, Jamie Murphy, he was killed just 5 minutes outside the gate. And I was on gate that day, and I remember the last thing I said to him, I called him a fucking snake. We were joking around. He was sitting in the back of an Iltis. And they left, and it was just a normal day. And then we heard the explosion. And then over the radio, they started calling in the 9-liner to call for help. And then it hit me. I was like, Murph was in there. Murph was in that group. And he died. He was killed. And it's stuff that you never really thought about before that, you know what I mean? Like getting to Kabul, like Bosnia, no one died. And the Canadians are starting to die. I remember in 2006, our Chief Warrant Officer, his name is Chief Warrant Officer Gerard, and we went to a ramp ceremony, and when we were deploying right after that, and we're heading back outside the wire. And he got out in front of everybody and told us, you're not going to be grieving right now. You got 1 day a year to do that, and that's on November 11th. Switch your game faces on, forget about what just happened, and carry on with the job. And in November of that year, he was killed. And our CO got up and said exactly what he would have wanted us to hear. It's what you have to do, because you become a liability if you allow your emotions to get involved in your theater operation, especially when somebody's relying on you. Good friend of mine, TJ Sterling, was in that vehicle too. He lived, but ultimately took his life later on. Just kind of par for the course for a lot of us that came home. There's a lot of suicide involved, and just guys just not. I'm not sure. I wasn't in their mind. I have no idea why they took their life, but some guys just took their life, and seemed like you could set your watch to it. That it just started happening. Guys were taking their life. Guys were killing themselves, and it was just awful. And it usually happened around the holidays, and it's every year wondering who it is going to be. Oh, do you hear so and so killed himself? Do you hear so and so hung himself? And it just became something that was normal for us. When I came home from Kabul, I started to notice that I was more aggressive. Not physically. I've never been physically aggressive. Aggressive and very short with people. You go overseas on an adrenaline high, and then you come home and you're told to switch that right off. Well, it's kind of hard to switch off an adrenaline high when that's all you know. To be alert, to worry about this person, that person, or the other thing. I don't care what drug you're going to go on, or you're going to try, or how much booze you're going to pour in your body. You're not going to get that adrenaline high. And the way I can try and explain it, here in Sault Ste. Marie is a 3.5 hour drive to Sudbury. So that whole time, get in your car, and the whole time on your way to Sudbury, think you're going to get killed. And then stay there for an hour, turn around, drive back to Sault Ste. Marie, and think you're going to get killed again. When you're nervous and you think you're going to get killed, not many people enjoy that feeling, right? It's terrifying. But you get this high, this adrenaline high, especially when you get back to Sault Ste. Marie from Sudbury and you're not dead, you're pretty excited. And do that for 6 months. And just think that you're going to get killed every day, and just ride that high and then come back here to Canada, and oh, we need you to act normal now. We need you just to reintegrate back into society. Well, that's nice. Well, how do I do that? Well, I don't know. Well, okay, well, what do we do?
The problem that I had was coming home, and coming home was you can't get overseas out of your system. And then when you're speaking with someone, you can't really explain to them how you're feeling because they haven't been there.
As time went on, as he was home, you could see that he wasn't comfortable being with a lot of people. And a week-long visit would suddenly be cut short by a couple of days, and he'd have to go home or be on his own. And that was a bit tough to see because it changed him from who he was to something else, and it wasn't the same Luke.
When I used to go to sporting events and I used to go to concerts and stuff like that, I didn't go to them anymore. I didn't feel safe. And there was no reason. You go out anywhere and you were wondering, where are the exits? And who do I have to go over to get to that exit? That was how you would approach going out or doing anything. And then anytime we had any type of downtime, it was trying to get together with the buddies that were overseas and tie one on. That's how it always was. Drinking really increased and stopped going to bars for the most part. If it was during the day. Didn't go dance, whatever those dance clubs, didn't do any of that stuff. It was more, let's get everybody together, let's get blind drunk at our house, and let's do this again next weekend. And this is the way our lifestyle was. In the military, it didn't matter. We were never told not to drink. When we get dismissed on Fridays, the chief warrant officer of the unit would always say, if you're gonna drink, don't drive. When you drink, driver. Never, all right guys, don't drink this weekend. Never like that, but just because we were a different breed like when I bring my Army buddies home here to the Sioux and we come home for Remembrance Day ceremony or something like that, people they can't wrap their head around how we act together, and it's a whole different beast. And it's still to this day in a way, but you can't really shake it because it's been ingrained in you. You've been trained and you've lived this life. That's the only life you know. And it seems to be working for us. So let's just kind of keep our circle tight and let's work together, and here we are, right? That old saying, you spilt the same blood in the same mud. I hear from a lot that you have to get away from those guys if you want to get better. You have to kind of distance yourself from those people if you ever want any type of peace. But you can't. How do you turn your back on a buddy that you went to war with? It's not like, not putting down any type of other career, but say I was working at the plant and they told me not to hang out with Johnny from the plant no more, I could probably do it. You know what I mean? But when it comes to guys who saved your life, risked their life for yours, for you to just say, okay, I'm leaving guys, you're on your own, it just doesn't work that way. We have such a brotherhood and tight-knit group of guys. For when 06 rolled around, the Patricias that were there before us were getting hammered pretty hard. And so we knew what we were getting into. This wasn't going to be a Kabul. This wasn't going to be a Dravar. This is going to be something completely different. Before we deployed, our OC stood us up and told us to look around the ranks. And then there's 180 guys, and you're looking around. Said, there's a bunch of these guys you're never going to see again. They're not going to come back. People will die. There's people who are going to die when we're over there. And you had to kind of wrap your head around that. I remember being with family and everybody so upset and crying, but you had to go. And I wanted to, because if my buddies are going over there, I'm going with them. You know, if we got to die, let's die together. Forget it. I'm not standing back here, because then you got to live with that for the rest of your life that you didn't go. And thank God I always went, because you can strip me down to nothing. I could be dying in a ditch, but no one can ever take away the fact that I served my country every time it asked me to. Okay, when I first got there, I think the mission changed completely. The Pickleys got ambushed at a place called the White School, which launched Op Medusa. I was down in Spin Boldak down by Pakistan for a bit, and that's where one of our platoons was gonna kind of station itself. And then Charles Company got hit really, really hard, and I was flown in to Panway.
taking you behind the battles now for a different take on Afghanistan through the eyes of soldiers. The 1st Battalion of the Royal Canadian Regiment, Charles Company, is a tough group, brave and courageous.
We were expecting fighting. We were expecting to be shot at. Just not with the type of intensity it has been. Not knowing the anxiety of the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen the next minute. And you hear your buddies, your friends are getting shot and killed, injured. And every day is a challenge like that. You don't know what's going to happen next.
These guys at 3-1 Charles have been out here since the beginning. They're the guys that led the way into Panway. They've been shot at. Rocket attacks are a nightly occurrence. Half of them have been wounded.
We expected people to get wounded, killed, but first month there was pretty rough. Still is rough, but you get used to it.
So when you're outside the wire, you're always on alert, and where the danger was a lot of the road moves and stuff like that. That's where they hit you with the IEDs or ambushes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so can you talk about, an incident where, you did get into a firefight or saw or had like a combat experience?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about those things.
Okay.
It kind of sets me off.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend for this one, and I was always constantly thinking about her, and I was thinking about my family, because it seemed like every couple of weeks someone was getting killed, and it could easily have been you, right? You could have been the next guy dying, and what they're going to have to deal with back home here. But I think what made that tour the hardest was just constantly being outside the wire, and not provided the luxuries of being inside a camp. Something as simple as taking a shower, laying down at night, not worrying about getting killed, all these different things. When you're outside the wire, anything can happen at any time. And it kind of just wears on you. It slowly wears you down, slowly wears you down, slowly wears you down. And for when we left Afghanistan, so many of us, I ain't going back there. I ain't going back there again. I'm not going to go back there again. I'm not going to go back there again.
We had some great times overseas. We also had some really shit times overseas. Loss of brothers and war, it is what it is. But you bind together more tightly as a family when you're over there, because you are dealing with absolute stress all the time. Even if you're in the safety of a camp, your daily routine could be 3 rockets hit the camp. You don't know who it's hit. You're looking around to see who's left, who's right. So on a daily basis, the stress it's there.
When I came home, I noticed that's when everything changed for me. Mentally, I'd shut myself in. Home for the first month, there was more excitement. I ended up getting engaged. I bought a house. Everything was going great. And then I just slowly started to fall apart to the point where my ex and myself had no idea what was going on. I couldn't sleep, couldn't do nothing. We wake up with the sound of explosions. I couldn't go anywhere without my back to the wall. Couldn't sleep, angry, just snap on a dime, just didn't matter. She wanted to go do things and I didn't want nothing to do with it. And when I did want to do something, I had to get blind drunk just to function, and it wasn't in the cards. So we split up.
See, when Luke came back, he was very distant. And one time in particular, it was one of our family weddings. I remember my brother, Luke's dad, saying to me, "Keep your distance." And we're a very huggy family. We love to hug and, see each other. And so he told me to keep my distance. So for me to not be able to run up to Luke and give him a hug and to see him with his sunglasses on at this function was very hard.
Each time he came home, there was a difference in him. You could see it in his face. The way he spoke. It was different. It was scary.
It was just so difficult being back here. And that's when I first started saying, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live like this. So when 08 came up, I had an opportunity to go back overseas. even though I said I'd never go back. I thought maybe I'd get killed over here and go to Hero, right? Because my life's going to fall apart back home. And didn't happen. I ended up back here safe and sound. The last time I got a good night's sleep was in Kandahar in 2008. And what is that? How many years is that? 15 years? 14 years? 14 years. I was waiting to get released from the military. I felt like the military had abandoned me, and I just lived in this depressive state, drowning myself in booze. And when the sleeping pills wouldn't work the way properly, and that little label on the bottle says, do not mix with alcohol. Well, if you mix it with alcohol, it'll knock you out. And sure, it's not safe, but that's probably coming from somebody who gets to sleep at night. I've gone 14 days with 3 hours sleep, and you can still function. And so when I finally got my medical release from the military, they sent me back to school where I was trained to be a personal support worker. And that helped for a bit. You have a new purpose, you have a new vision, you have all these different things that kind of lets some of the symptoms kind of subside. But then when you get into, I graduated and I'm working as a PSW, I replace my addictions for substances with work. I found 3 places that would hire me so I could work every day, every single day. I didn't care because I couldn't sleep, so I might as well go work 12-hour shift, work 4 hours doing home care, sleep for a couple hours, and then go back and rinse and repeat. Did that over and over and over and over again, beating your body up because you think, this is what I have to do to survive. And just not really address what's making these symptoms, the alcohol and substance abuse, the lack of sleep, the anger. Don't address any of that stuff. Just kind of fight through it and power your way through it and find something to substitute it with. And that's what I did. And I was just trying to work myself into a grave.
The thing with soldiers is one thing. You can say, are you okay? And I'll say, fuck yeah, I'm great. I'm having a great day. Our biggest thing is the facade that we have in front of you saying, okay, he's good. We're going to take his word for it. He looks good. He's strong. He's healthy. He's everything. He's smiling. He's laughing. But as soon as you go home, you break down and you're not okay.
It's not so much the stigma no more. The military's completely did a 180 on that. And there is so much help out there. But pride gets in the way for going to ask for help. For sure, it does. Especially like you think you can do everything and you put on a facade that you can do everything.
I would say when Luke left, he left as like a bright, happy guy. And when he came back, he was still a bright, happy guy. So Luke did a really good job hiding and covering up some of that dark that he had. I do remember our first family reunion. We were sitting around a bonfire together, and there was a set of fireworks that were going off across the water. And as soon as those fireworks went off, he hit the ground. And that was the telltale sign that he wasn't the Luke that left. So that was the first indication to me that things changed a little bit.
Once in a while, I got to go down and see him, and when I was with him, he seemed to be fine. But then when I talked to him on the phone, I knew there was something wrong. He'd say, Dad, we got to watch. They're here. They're watching me, And I'm going, who's watching you? He goes, Dad, they're watching me. I know they're watching me. Well, okay, I'm going to come down to see it. No, don't come, Dad, because if you come down, you're in danger. Because if they see you with me, they'll think that you're part of the army, and they'll go after you, Dad.
I remember being young and envisioning my future. What am I going to be like when I retire? What am I going to do when I'm older? After 2008, it wasn't like that. It was like, when is this all over? How quickly can I get to the grave? Suicide's always on your mind. Always, always on your mind, because you're eventually tired of suffering. I even got to the mindset where I wanted to ask people, I need you to turn your stove on. And then once the element's hot, I want you to put your hand on it. But I want you to do that every day, because I want you to suffer for me while you're alive. I need you to suffer every day for me. And that was where my mind took me. Why would anybody actually want me to continue to suffer and suffer and suffer? Instead of going to get help and trying to figure this out, I just kind of weave this web of negativity and hate and anger and darkness in my head that was my only option. And it doesn't happen overnight. It slowly eats away at you. It slowly takes to the point to where people are referring to you as crazy. Oh, he's crazy. He's nuts. You know what I mean? Because you are. You know, you got stopped, got invited to barbecues, stopped, invited to birthday parties, all these different things. Nobody wanted you there. You didn't act properly. So, sure, they were your friends, like, and here or there, but when it came to something important, they weren't inviting you. Why would they? You didn't know how to act. I have 4 beautiful nieces and a nephew. And my brother, Josh, who's in Barrie, always wanted me to go down to their birthday party. And I always had some excuse because I wasn't going to be the whacked out uncle who showed up sitting in the corner, making everybody uncomfortable, standing there. And that was, I would rather lie to my family why I couldn't be at places, come up with some kind of weird story, just because I was so embarrassed of who I was. I never wanted my nieces and nephew to see me like that. It always reminds me, my mom had an uncle, Uncle Harold, and he was a prisoner of war in World War II. When he came home, he came to live with my grandmother, and they didn't want him around. He was too aggressive, and it was too scary for the kids. So she said just one day, Harold was gone. They got him out of town. She has no idea what happened to him. And it always terrified me that I would become my niece's and nephew's Uncle Harold. Terrified me. Still to this day. Yeah. I hope wherever happened to him that he didn't suffer. I just hope, but I don't know.
You want to take a break?
Yeah, just a quick one. My poor mom hadn't had all her boys together. I can't even, like, it must be like early 2000s. She would have all her sons together for, say, Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or some sort of dinner. So she wanted to have all her sons together, and I was completely, October, I was done. I was done mentally, but I thought in my head, if I could come home and have a great time with my family, either that'll pull me out or it'd be the last thing they remember me for. So win-win in my head. And then I came home, I was telling anybody who would listen to me, one day I'm just gonna take a trip somewhere, and I'll be gone, but don't worry, I'm gonna come back. I just wanna get away from everybody. And it was my way of saying goodbye. We were having a great time, and I was kind of still a little bit on the edge. My brother's younger kids, they were running around, making noise, and this is what pushed me over the edge. Is I stopped, I walked over to the kitchen and yelled at everybody to keep it down. And what played in my head? Harold, what did you just do? And the look on those little kids' killed me. And I knew from that moment on, that's it, I'm done. I'll go home and maybe this turns around, but probably not. And it was, I hadn't slept 2 weeks, and I was done. I was checking out. I took a drive to Pembroke, and I don't remember much, but I want to tell myself that I didn't do it on purpose. But when I hit that curb, went up and into the ditch, the car was completely totaled. I walked out of there without a scratch. And I remember telling myself, like, you can't even do this right. And it was on October 30th, that night, the next day, I took my cell phone, threw it in the water. I don't know why, I thought maybe people would try and track me down. I went home and I took enough pills to kill an elephant. And my ex was trying to get a hold of me. And the only thing that saved my life was throwing that phone in the water, because it kept going to voicemail. And she drove out to my house in Chalk River. Just as I finished taking the pills, I remember laying down on the couch and her barging in the house. And I believe God intervened twice, one in the car crash and one sending Ashley to my house to save my life. I was rushed to the hospital. They took me straight to Ottawa. I was placed in a psychiatric facility for 6 days. And then I was released, and then I was going to be sent on the program where I went to Homewood.
Nobody knew. Like, we knew he was going for treatment, but we didn't know why. And he'd been for treatment before, so I just figured, you know, this is military taking care of him. And then I just found out. I still don't understand it fully. Why did this happen to my boy?
Yeah, the darkness that kind of like just comes along with giving up on everything, right? I told myself that my family and friends didn't deserve an explanation of why I was going to kill myself. I thought in my head, my brothers will be so much better off if I could remove this burden from their life. And that's where my mind took me. My mind told me it's okay for you to steal your mother and father's son from them without asking permission. With nothing like that. I went so far into the darkness that they didn't care. I thought I was going to be doing everybody a favor. No more worrying what's going on with Luke. I haven't heard from him in 2 weeks. Has anybody heard from Luke? No. Off 7-8 hours away, my poor parents, they'll get over it. There'll be no more stress in their life. One less burden roaming around. And that's where my mind took me. And that October, when I looked the devil in the eye, thank God he blinked. So when I was in Homewood, my best friend Sean Sutherland had reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be part of the caddy, like go to the caddy school in Scotland. And with my shoulder injury, I couldn't golf no more. I was like, I can't golf no more. He goes, you don't have to golf, you just have to carry a bag. He goes, with your golf knowledge, because I golfed since I was 10 years old. And with the knowledge you know about golf, you'd be perfect for it.
Well, I was brought in, asked to come in as a student at the caddy school in 2021 for the Ryder Cup. I was having a bit of a tough go, and one of the guys that was running the program asked if I wanted to come, and I love golf, so I was like, yeah, shoo in. So I went there for 30 days, became really ingrained with the process and the people that were there, and they could see that I was good talking with the other soldiers, and they asked me if I wanted to come back as a mentor. The mentor basically looks after those 6 guys from 8 o'clock in the morning until after supper. And mentoring them in ways of like, you're having a tough go during the day, you come talk to me.
So coming out of treatment, I had the tools, but I didn't have a purpose yet. So when I went to the caddy school in Scotland, that first loop, I knew caddying was going to save my life. And you're back out there, you have a purpose, not forces you, but you interact with people. You know what I mean? Because it's just you one-on-one with your golfer, and you develop friendships. And I'm not a bad caddy, so you get praise, you know what I mean, for the work you do.
So the caddy school gives them a different venue of learning with, 5 other soldiers, a trade that they can bring outside of their house, where they're talking with a new person every day for 4.5 hours. And you're guiding that person around a mission, an operation, basically a golf course. And you're really helping that guy get to the end zone or not the end zone, but the end play is less strokes on his card and having a great chat with a person that you just met. And what better way to bring someone out of their shell than 4.5 hours on a golf course carrying someone's bag.
We stayed in a little town called Ely. It was about 30 minutes from the old course at St. Andrews. And we trained at the Dukes, which was 5 minutes from St. Andrews. And they brought in caddies, professional caddies from the old course who trained us. And then they give you a lot of downtime, and there's a lot of times where every night we all get together for supper, and we work together as a family and as a team.
We have a family dinner every night, and it's called a family dinner. Everybody sits down at the table. The first day, everybody's spread across this table. It's a 12-person table. Everybody's spread out. Second day, get a little closer. Third day, closer. Fourth day, you usually get 6 soldiers sitting at the end of the table. They don't know each other. They're high-fiving, they're laughing, they're carrying on. It's a feeling you can't explain it. It's just amazing. So my job is to make sure that all that takes place in 30 days. After that, we get them jobs anywhere in the world where they need caddies. So Cabot Links, Cape Breton, Cabot Links, Cabot Cliffs, Cape Breton, Port Rush, Port Hood, Royal Port Rush in Scotland, or in Ireland, Old Head in Ireland. So we have guys all over the map, and all former soldiers. And all our job is for the whole 30 days to look after those guys and make sure that they come out of the darkness and see the light.
The course has been incredible. I've learned so much, but I cannot wait to get home. I haven't seen my parents since the incident on October 30th. So to sit down with my mom, she doesn't know anything about golf. I don't think she cares about golf, but to just share my experience here and talk to her, it's going to be great. And with my father, who I've been golfing with since I was 11 years old, but due to physical and mental injuries for the last 4 years, I haven't been able to be on the golf course with him. So this opportunity is going to give me a chance to caddy for him, and he's going to be the first bag outside this course that I'm going to caddy for. And I cannot wait for that moment on 18 after he has the best round of his life. I shake his hand and we hug, and I try to apologize a million times in a second to him for what I did. But to have that moment, I think is going to be absolutely magical. And I want to thank Sean, Don, and the Kohlers for giving me a second chance at life. Thank you.
I'm telling you, I can't believe the change in him. It's beautiful. I think he sees the light at the end of the tunnel, and finally something's happened to him. The caddy school did wonders for him.
Yeah, you're just around guys who experience the same things you do, have the same symptoms that you have. But the caddy school's approach is to get guys up off the couch, get you out of the darkness, give you the option, give you the training. You don't have to go out and be a caddy. But if you do, there's benefits to that. But if not, give them maybe some sort of purpose, some sort of way of saving soldiers' lives. And that's something I'm going to do going forward with everything I have planned, is to do everything I can for the Robbie Dean Center and everything I can for the Caddy School for Soldiers.
We are striking out at the veterans because there's not a lot of small group venues that do what we do. And there's absolutely no program that does what we do. We are the only program in the world that's a Caddy School for Soldiers, and we're the only one in the world that teaches soldiers to become something that they can be immediately deployed and employed after the program. With Luke, what he's doing, he's actually hitting home base in Petawawa with the Robbie Dean Center and myself, because we're a veteran program. We only take veterans, where the program at the Robbie Dean Center is veterans and civilians, which is brilliant.
It's a not-for-profit organization, receives no government funding. And basically it's somewhere where you can go to kind of do intake, and they can help point you in the right direction when it comes to mental health. So you're not just sitting at home waiting 6 to 8 weeks so you can get in to see the one shrink who's in town.
Robbie Dean was a young man who is from a place called Renfrew County. Renfrew County is in between Ottawa and North Bay. It's it is the biggest rural county in the province of Ontario. So the struggles of living there are causing some of the health determinants to be the worst in the province. So Robbie was raised there. At the age of 17, Robbie began to struggle with his mental health. And I'm actually Robbie's mother. So for about 9 months, we were trying to find help for him and for us, and we were unsuccessful. So on August 18th, 3 months after his 18th birthday, we lost him to suicide. I just became really frustrated that we struggled so hard to get help, and I couldn't understand why. And I mean, there's been a lot of progress with mental health in the last 10 years. So in 2011, it was really door after door getting shut in our faces. So in 2013, the Robbie Dean Center became a registered charity with the aim of providing free mental health services to those in Renfrew County who couldn't get help anywhere else. So the people that had very little to no income, the people that didn't have health benefits through their employers, the people that didn't fit the primary care model. So they couldn't go to the emergency department and expect to see a psychiatrist and get help that way. All these folks that were falling in the cracks of the systems where we did is who our mission began to help.
So this place provided my psychiatrist with an office, so I didn't have to go to the city, because if I had to go to the city one more time, go to Ottawa, I wasn't going no more. I'd always come up with excuses. I'm not going. No. I could stay right in town and get the help I needed. So the Robbie Dean Center saved my life. I'm going to do whatever I can to support them and to help them going forward.
Well, I met Luke about 3 months ago. He spent some time in Petawawa, and he received services from us when he was struggling, and so he wanted to pay back. And he approached me and said, this is my plan, and this is my dream, and this is my vision. You want to be part of it? And I jumped on that with both feet in.
When I started writing, when I was in treatment, they told me to journal. And I hate writing. Tell you a little backstory about me. When I got a 50 in grade 12 English. And when you get a 50, that means you didn't get a 50. They gave you a 50. Because I didn't care. I didn't care about the school. And when a lot of people, I'll read them my poems, and then they're blown away. They can't believe, you wrote that? And then over and over, you wrote that? And then I finally have to tell them, I'm getting the feeling that you didn't even think I could read, let alone write. If you're struggling with something, write it down. Write it down and read it. Work with it. Mold it like Play-Doh. And then it doesn't become so crazy. It doesn't just burn in your brain no more, and work through it. And that's what I find journaling, writing, poetry, all these different things, whatever wording is for it, that's the best thing that saved my life. So when I came back this fall, I was going to take all my poetry and comprise it in a book called Letters to My Innocence. And the more and more I thought about it, there's poems I have that I don't want to share. And so I was going to create one book and keep it for myself. So I was telling my uncle Dave, I'm not making my book now. And he goes, well, why don't we try and find a way to monetize your poetry, the stuff you want to share? I said, well, how do we do that? He said, well, start a website. So started a website, we're starting a foundation. It's free to view, but it's going to concentrate my poetry that's going to help people with mental health. It's called visionpoems.com. Anybody who's struggling with mental health can be sent to this website for help. Anybody who wants to donate to my two causes, there's going to be donation buttons on there to make a donation, and 100% of that money goes to organizations. And over and over, everybody I talked to said, you spent thousands of hours writing. You're going to spend thousands of hours on this website. Don't you want to take a little bit for yourself? And my answer to them is, what if that little bit I take costs someone their life? I'd rather sleep on a pillow poor than, not sleep because of anxiety or what ifs on a pillow of money. And that's how I'll die a poor man. I don't care. I don't care. My soul will die rich. I don't want anybody to ever get to the point where they think it's okay to steal their mother and father's son from them. To get so far into the darkness that they get to where I was, where you just don't care. You don't care, and you think the best thing for you is to take your life.
The Luke Cyr Foundation is basically out there to deal with people that have had all different forms of mental illness. And specifically right now, the two main causes that the Luke Cyr Foundation are initially trying to put some traction to are the two that have helped him the most in getting through his own trauma, the Robbie Dean Center out of Pembroke and the Renfrew County area, and the Caddy School for Soldiers.
Ride the lightning? Come on. I'm good.
I'm going to let him share his story, so if you could, I would welcome Luke Cyr.
Hello everyone, and I want to thank you for coming this evening, tackling the storm that's on its way and stuff like that. People that came from out of town, traveled a long way, and it's absolutely amazing. Thank you very much for your support. This evening, we're going to go through and I'm going to start talking about the Luke Cyr Foundation, our website that we started, visionhomes.com, and I'm so blessed this evening to have the representatives from both charities that we'll be helping. Those charities are the Caddy School for Soldiers and the Robbie Dean Center. Without both of those charities, we're not sitting here because you're laying flowers at my grave. All right? And it's a hard truth. It's hard to hear. All right? But what we are doing, and with the help of everybody in here, we're going to save a lot of lives. We're going to save a lot of lives along the way. And I'm going to need your help.
Being here today and seeing what Luke's become after attending the caddy school with Cabot, working there, helping other people, and being able to go to the Robbie Dean Center and hear how that's helped him is amazing. He's done a 180. He's not exactly the same Luke before the military, but we all change as things happen. But he does have a new drive and purpose, and you know that's what makes us wake up in the morning. That's what gives us that energy to get going. And whenever I talk to him about this, he's fired up. He's got all kinds of energy and passion. He wants to take it across the country, if not around the world. And what I'm really proud of is that the original program was meant for soldiers, and he saw a huge gap and opportunity at the same time, saying, well, what about the first responders? So now police officers, firefighters, paramedics, nurses, you name it, if they're going to be exposed to those issues with stressors, PTSD, mental health, he's reaching out and created this foundation to do that.
It's like he's found his passion in life, he's found his purpose, and I know that's a big thing for most people, right? Everyone wants to have a purpose, and he's found his, and it's awesome.
Oh my, there's such a big change in him. It's like he has, something to live for now. And I'm really happy for him. Really, really happy for him.
What he's doing after everything he's been through is he's doing this to help others. Like, he's not doing this for himself, but indirectly, with every person he helps, he's helping himself come along a little bit with everyone that he helps. And it's like all of them, like they just keep helping one another.
He has such a light and he has such an impact on so many people's lives that I am not even surprised that so many people want to come out and support him.
Transition-wise, he's this 18-year-old kid that I shook hands with 25 years ago. And I mean, there's not much more I can say to that. You saw him up there, you saw his energy, you saw him ramping the crowd up in the end. That's the guy I met, and that's the passion he has. He didn't have that a year and a half ago. He'd rather get fucked up drunk and not care and pass out and fall asleep and talk to anybody. Now he's like, so what do you want to do tonight? Let's go have a couple of beer, talk about tonight, and we'll go to bed and we'll get up in the morning and have breakfast. I'm like, okay, which is amazing. I mean, and I love him. There's nothing more I can say. I've been with him for 25 years and he's been with me.
Just here today, visiting my buddy Scotty. Scotty and I grew up together. I talked him into joining the military, which was really hard for me after he passed away, as I was so adamant about him joining. The survivor guilt got me, and it got me really bad. Come up here all the time. This is his monument. This is his stone here, and I always bring him quarters. See, when Scotty was alive, I never speak ill of the dead, but he would push you out of the way to get a nickel up off the ground, and it was more for a joke of anything, but I always bring him quarters for every year he's passed. So this year it'd be 14 as of yesterday, because today is March 21st. And I miss him. There's a wreath laid there that my mother makes for Scott every year for Remembrance Day. And it's actually pretty honorable to see that no one's ever messed with it or touched it. Now, Scott was a great man. I remember actually a great story that kind of comes along with this. When Scott passed, we were training to be his pallbearers and folding the flag, and everybody was telling stories about Scott and about fishing money out of vending machines and all this other stuff. So one of the stories that came up they were talking about Scott reaching into an ATM at this Kelsey's, and just to see if there's any money. Everybody laughed and joked. That day we went down, and on our way down I stopped to vacuum out my car for some reason, and there was 2 loonies on top of where the vacuum was. So I said, oh, Scotty left these toonies here for me. So we went down, we were all at Kelsey's. I walked in and the other guys waved me up and they said, you got to come check this out. When they walked in, they actually looked into the ATM and there was a $20 bill. They took the $20 bill, and when we actually lowered Scott to the ground at Beechwood, I took the 2 toonies out of my white glove and I dropped them in underneath Scott's casket, and the guy beside me, Steve Ogilvie, had the $20 bill, and he fished it out and threw it under Scotty's grave. So Scotty's always looking out for us, and so that's why we always bring our money here for him. My old friend. What I do is I'll take his quarters and I just kind of throw them around for Scotty, because that's what he would have wanted. And see, the kids over at that school right now are watching me throw the money, and they're going to come out here at recess and they're going to take that money. But that's what Scott would have wanted. If he was one of those kids, he'd push every kid down to get to those quarters. I know it. And I love him for that. It's too bad. 14 years is a long time. But for the most part, I know Scotty's in a better place, and we'll all meet up once again one day. So, till we meet again, my friend. Till we meet again. My old friend. My most dearest of friend. I need your help, buddy. This ain't gonna be easy, Scotty. I need your help here, buddy. Am I going to save the world? No. No, but if I save one person, it's worth it. It's worth all the effort. It's worth all the time. It reminds me of a story I was told, and I was 5 years old. And I know I said I have memory problems, but I do. But I remember this story I was told. There's a guy on a wharf, and he's watching the tide come in. As the tide hits the beach, it's washing hundreds of starfish onto the beach. And he's thinking in his head, how dreadful. They won't last 15 minutes on there before they die. All those starfish are going to die. But he noticed a little kid. He's running around down on the beach, picking up starfish and trying to get them back to the water. But he'd throw 10 in the water, tide come in, washing another 80. The guy watches the kid for a little while and says, I got to go put a stop to this. And he goes down and talks to the little kid. He says, son, stop. And the kid, upset, what is it, sir? Look what you're doing. You bring 10 in, 80 hit the beach. You really think you're making a difference? And the little kid picked up a starfish and threw it in the water, said, I made a difference for that one. And that's the way I've always approached my life, and how I'm going to approach the foundation and the website is if I can save one person's life, that's all that matters. No act of kindness, no matter how small, goes unnoticed.